Hey everybody, Mark from Massive Late Fee here. Just a quick note on this episode. We had a little bit of a problem with Chris's audio. I believe that our connection wasn't that great. He joined us remotely. It does get a lot better towards the end of the episode, so just bear with us a little bit. Thanks. This podcast is part of the Michigan Sports and Entertainment Podcast Network. Go to michigansportsandentertainment.com for more great podcasts.
You know who I can do without? I can do without the people in the video store.
Which ones?
All of them.
This is Massive Late Fee with Mike and Mark.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Massive Late Fee. My name is Mark. With me as always is my co-host Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Not too bad. How about you?
Good. We've had a good week here again at Massive Late Fee. We've got another special guest for you this week. You longtime fans of the show will remember him from episode 1. It is Chris making his triumphant return to the airwaves of Massive Late Fee. Chris has been very busy with his own podcast called We're Watching Here. I've wanted to do that so much, Chris. You have no idea. But
we started that, and I thought we would switch off every week and then my co-host Perry has so much fun doing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do. But so he hosts another show on our network called We're Watching Here, which also talks about movies. They have a little more of an academic conversation, I would say, than we do about movies, but it's definitely a good listen.
Absolutely.
So check them out. And we welcome you, Chris. How has your week been?
It's been going pretty well. We actually have a new We're Watching Here coming up on Friday, so I'm excited. We've been getting that ready.
Yeah, I listened to your latest one about Robin Williams, which was really, really good and in-depth. I don't think I 100% agreed with you guys on all your takes, but most of them. I mean, we can all agree that movie he did with Billy Crystal is hot garbage.
Yeah. That's a pretty rough one. Father's Day. That's just one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Oh God. But into the news. Speaking of some of the worst things I've ever seen or heard of, apparently they are talking about doing a sequel to the film Bohemian Rhapsody. Chris, I'm sure you've got some thoughts on this, because for those of you that don't read MichiganSportsAndEntertainment.com, where Chris does a lot of our entertainment articles, Chris has been heavily against the entire idea of these kind of movies at all.
I just feel like it's the type of thing Walk Hard should have killed. I don't know what a sequel to Bohemian Rhapsody is. It's
very sad is what it is.
sad. Yeah, it's just watching the slow decline of Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, it sounds like a snuff film. It does not sound like something that would be entertaining to me. I mean, it ended at the original film. Spoilers, I guess, for this terrible film.
For me.
But it ends at Live Aid, and then I guess they would go from there to the last few years of his life.
The second one ends at Dead Aid.
Yeah, exactly. When not a lot happens other than he slowly deteriorates from AIDS, depressingly, like so many people did in the 80s and early 90s.
So a rock soundtrack.
But a sequel that I am sort of looking forward to, although, Chris, I have a feeling from stuff that I've read that you are not looking forward to this, is we've gotten some set photos from the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and Kevin Smith has teased that new actors are going to be playing Blunt Man and Chronic in the film, so I guess we will not see the return of James Van Der Beek and the pie fucker, I can't think of his name. But yeah, Jason Biggs. So they won't be back, but there will be two new. I assume, I don't know, is One Tree Hill still a current reference? Some Riverdale. There's one. Some kids from Riverdale or something will be in there.
I've kind of checked out on Kevin Smith in the years.
Mm-hmm.
Really sad because I was a huge fan of his. Akron wants to see his Q&A, and if you can get me to go to Akron, I must like you pretty much. But I'm actually kind of curious about this. I like Kevin Smith as a person. I think fun personality, and he seems genuinely happy and excited about this. And I don't know. I see some of the pictures of like Jason Lee back on the set, and I kind of get hopeful that maybe this will be I enjoy a little bit more.
Well, what I like about the idea is that I like it's the same way that Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back sort of like lampooned the entertainment industry for how they made superhero films and things like that, how they took comic book properties and adapted them really before they even
Way ahead of the curve on that one.
yeah, really before they even got started doing it. I think that he could have a lot of fun with the reboots and everything that's like reboots and remakes and all that stuff that's going on in Hollywood now. Now, I have, Mike and I are both really big fans of Kevin Smith, but definitely there have been some disappointments over the years. And yeah, Yoga Hosers was not a pleasant experience for anyone that heard my rant about.
But your review on it was worth it being made.
But so it is entirely possible that this could just be a complete waste of time. But I have faith that Kevin Smith can return to form and sort of take his biting, sarcastic edge at Hollywood one more time.
I heard that Jason Lee signed up because he heard it was a squeakquel.
That is his. What he hasn't done very much recently at all.
No, not really.
I wonder how much money he made from My Name Is Earl that he can just retire.
Enough, I guess.
I'm sure he gives it all to the Church of Scientology.
He's not a Scientologist anymore, actually.
Oh, he's not?
No, he moved to like Montana or some like kind of like Western type state like that. I don't know if it was to flee the church or what, but he's not been a Scientologist for a few years now.
Well, that makes me happy that he's not a Scientologist anymore.
I hope he can still be friends with Ethan Suplee.
Right? Good for you, Jason Lee, for seeing the light. But moving on to some big news that popped out today on Twitter. Lori Loughlin, and also known as Aunt Becky from Full House, and Felicity Huffman, famous actress and wife of William H. Macy, have both been indicted. Felicity Huffman, last I heard, was actually arrested. Lori Loughlin, I don't know if she's on the run or what.
She's in Canada. She's in Canada, from what I read.
Oh, okay. Well, that's convenient. But they've been indicted in a scandal where they've paid where they did what rich people have done since the beginning of time, is paid for their kids to go to college, whether it's bribing a proctor to fix the answers on the SATs, or it's so funny. One of the things I heard was the FBI had recordings between Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, and maybe the most surprising thing to me is that they're friends. I didn't see that coming.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
But
yeah, I love this story. This has been so entertaining for me today.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's the best.
But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's just kind of like, I feel like whoever is editing the news today just like started pulling them off. I'm like, I haven't thought of Lori Loughlin in 20 years, and now she's a felon, so Full House to the big house.
Right.
Well, that's a federal crime too. That's the best.
But yeah, so apparently, I saw a video of one of Lori Loughlin's daughters, and I guess they paid, I don't remember exactly how much it was, $15,000 or something like that, so that she could get into USC And I guess one of the conversations that they recorded between her husband, Lori Loughlin's husband, and somebody else was that they wanted to make sure she got someplace besides ASU. So they threw ASU under the bus.
My favorite part is I think it's Felicity Huffman lady.
Yeah.
Like her older daughter that she paid for to get in, but the second one she didn't have to. So what?
And apparently
like, well, you can't get in yourself.
and apparently the kids didn't know anything about this. That's what they said. So
like, imagine the kids just like boasting to their friends, "Oh, I aced that test. I'm in the USC now."
So they're finding out now that their whole life is a lie. But
that's hilarious.
There was a video of Lori Loughlin's daughter talking about how she didn't really care about school that much. It was a YouTube video she put out. I guess she does this a lot. I've never seen it, but I'm not, a 15-year-old girl. But she talks about how she doesn't like school that much, but she's really looking forward to going to college because she's looking forward to partying and to going to game days, stuff like that.
Did you say, I never study, but I get good grades anyways?
Oh, it's so funny. And I guess William H. Macy didn't know anything about it either. Or at least they can't prove he didn't know anything about it because he wasn't indicted. But Lori Loughlin and her husband were, as was Felicity Huffman. But, I like, you guys you agree with me, right? Maybe not to this level, but stuff like this goes on all the time where, daddy makes a, $5 million contribution to the college and all of a sudden the junior is able to go there.
I think it's just a ranking of celebrities, because if your dad's Tom Hanks or something, he's going to throw some money and build him a library, but Full House residuals don't buy libraries. So they have to go through the little, the cheater company to help facilitate all that. And I just think it's really funny that, everyone's throwing money, but if you're like a B-list, you've got to throw money kind of the dirty way.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think this is probably the first time this has happened.
Well, I think maybe in this exact way, but it is incredibly. We usually don't talk about sort of celebrity personal life stories and stuff like that, but this is a particularly hilarious incident.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that what's her name, Emma Watson's smart enough to get into Brown all by herself. They probably didn't know she was a celebrity.
Right. Exactly. Like
and Natalie Portman at Harvard, she's just a genius. That's all.
James Franco too. James Franco seems like the kind of guy that's a complete genius, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Harry Osborn himself, Harvard bound. I think he taught a class there or something.
Okay.
But anyway, on to what we're watching. So what we're watching this week. This week, my wife has gotten me into a show, and I'm sure I'm like 2 weeks behind on this or whatever. I'm sure everyone's already talked about it. But it's a new show on Netflix called You, about a guy that stalks and kills people. But apparently all the girls, besides my wife, because she thinks he's weird, but all the girls that I've seen on Twitter just love him and have said stuff like, "Oh, I wish, he'd kill me." That's the weirdest shit in the world. Some of these people, and I don't begrudge anyone that's a fan of the show. We've watched 3 episodes so far, and I enjoy the show. It's a good kind of thriller type show, but I want Joe to have sex with me and then murder me. That's a little too far, I think. Have either of you seen this show?
I have a coworker who's talked a lot about it, but I have not seen it.
It's a weird one.
Never heard of it.
Maybe it'll be one for crossing streams at some point.
It might be. I could think of that. I know they're doing a second. I think it was like originally a Lifetime.
That does not surprise me at all if it was a Lifetime. It's the exact plot of a Lifetime film, just written and made better.
And then Lifetime canceled it, and Netflix will do anything. So
that is interesting. Mike, what have you been watching this week?
Pretty much the same stuff. A lot of Frankenstein's Lab on YouTube. I saw the most recent, the Hot Ones. I didn't really care for it that much, just because the guest wasn't that great.
Was that the person
I've
with
been
blue
watching.
hair?
Yeah, I didn't really care for that one. That girl's kind of annoying, if anything.
Yeah.
I was also watching some clips from Your Mom's House, which is a podcast I like. I listened to a really long podcast from Joe Rogan. It was Alex Jones' podcast. It was insane at certain points.
Oh my God.
It was a 4-hour podcast.
I mean, oh, that's insane. I know that that Joe Rogan gets into the conspiracy theory stuff every once in a while. But Alex Jones, I mean, Alex Jones makes him look like he's playing Little League.
If you think Alex Jones is ridiculous, you should hear Joe Rogan's friend Eddie Bravo. He is the most ridiculous person I've ever heard speak. Like it makes me angry hearing him talk. He's like, oh, space isn't real. Not the moon landing or anything. Space itself, he claims it's not real
Space isn't real.
because it can't be proven. Mind you, he's like a high school graduate who like taught like a jiu-jitsu for the past like 20 years. He didn't get his fellowship at NASA like some people, but
I can just see this like guy with a pot belly in
oh no, he's pretty in shape. But yeah, he looks very douchey in general.
yeah, they can't prove space. Oh my God.
Maybe you can't prove space is real, but many people can.
Yeah. Oh, Chris, what have you been watching?
Not a lot, but I did watch the first episode of The Case Against an
The Case Against Who?
Syed. So
okay.
this is basically a follow-up to Serial, the podcast from a few years,
Yep.
and it's kind of revisiting that case. And Serial, I don't know that it adds anything new so far, but it's kind of interesting to revisit and kind of they spring off the popularity of the podcast. They're getting into some new revelation on the road, but first episode is kind of just a repeat of the podcast.
Oh. Well, Mike is not a fan of Serial. I know that.
I am not at all. No.
I listened to the first one, and it was the first season, and I was interested at times, kind of uninterested at other times, but I know the fascination with Syed is Adnan has been long standing. I think it was maybe last week they said that he was denied a retrial.
Yeah.
So spoiler alerts for real life. He probably did it, and he's not getting a retrial. But
Yeah, that whole case is boring to me. So I don't really care what happens.
I mean,
I don't care if justice is served or not. That's how little I care about this.
there's a few interesting things here and there, but at the end of the day, his friend Jay told him where the car was. So either Adnan killed her or Jay killed her. I mean, that's the only explanation.
Oh no!
Why
I mean,
not both?
The fourth episode is going to reveal the big bombshell, which is Lori Loughlin killed her.
She was doing better in high school than her daughter, so she didn't
She
want
was
to
about to get that
take
open
like
slot.
That's right. She had aspirations for USC, and Lori Loughlin couldn't have that. Oh my God. Ugh. But this week we're talking about Captain Marvel. So Mike and Chris, for the Educating Mike section, I decided to take a look and read you about the craziest Captain Marvel story that ever has been, I think. And it's the Avengers 200 from October of 1980. At the beginning of this,
Just the German-made movie. I'm thinking of the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that's right. No, this is
In der Spiegel.
at the beginning of this, with no explanation. Captain Marvel is pregnant, and she is in a medical observatory. I can't even name them all. There's Captain America and Iron Man in that weird yellow Iron Man era costume. I think Hawkeye and Beast and somebody else, I don't know, one of the C-list Avengers. But they're standing around and they're saying, how did she get pregnant? She doesn't even know who the father is and all this stuff. So she's not sure who the father is. She became pregnant like a week before and rapidly progressed to now giving birth to the child. Obviously the list of suspects is great because you've got Vision and all these other superpowered people, that might have slipped one past her. But she gives birth, and the child begins to age rapidly in the course of they put it in this like weird dome to observe it. It's like a child incubator, I guess, but it's a weird, everything has to be space age, so it's like a golden dome where the kid's just laying. But over the course of the next couple days, the child becomes fully grown. And when he becomes fully grown, he tells Captain Marvel that his name is Marcus and that he wooed her. And as he explains it, he saw her and realized that she was this great hero. So what he did was he took her to his limbo zone and then started to try to romance her. The first day, he got William Shakespeare to write a sonnet, to write a sonnet in her honor. So, I guess props there. Then he had Beethoven write her a concerto, and then he. And this is the best part. He's trying all these different lines and everything. Nothing really seems to be working. He gives her this concoction to drink. And then suddenly, she consents to having sex with him.
Is he played by Bill Cosby?
Exactly. So he has sex with her. He impregnates her. And he returns her to her original dimension. In order for her to give birth to him. So there's a lot to unpack here. One, he is somehow his own dad because he impregnated her with himself. And two, I don't think that there's any definition for what he did other than rape. And they put this in a comic book for kids. Oh. So the story kind of goes on to where he becomes this villain and they have to fight him. But, in the end, obviously, they prevail. But that was the time that Captain Marvel was drugged and taken advantage of in order to give birth to an inhuman child.
That's her own son and father?
Yep.
Something like that?
And I think that if she was wearing the outfit that she was wearing in the movie, it wouldn't have happened. It was too revealing of a costume, so it's really kind of on her.
Wow. I'm not going to say that.
I did think this was a little bit much information for them to put into the mid-credit.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is an insane episode. I guess this is what you could get away with in 1980.
I guess. I mean, the Revenge of the Nerds hadn't come out yet, so it's not uncommon during that time period.
That's true. Rape was...
Plus, I heard she was asking for it.
God.
Well, they go out of their way to say that she consented. I don't know how that can be considered consent at all, but...
Maybe it was truth juice.
Right. That's what he gave, just to make her a little more amenable. Oh my god. But so that is educated.
So weird that like that stuff like back then was like, oh okay, just slip her a Mickey. It's like, ha ha. It's like, no, don't do that.
That's true. It was kind of, I mean, at least in the movies, it was like that.
I like how Captain Marvel doesn't have the superpower to negate a date rape drug.
Right? You know, it's funny too because on that show, Joe, that we were watching, he's talking about how he has to wait so long to call this girl that he's stalking and everything, because he's trying to form an actual relationship with her. And he's like, oh, I hate dating nowadays or something like that. Or I hate kids today or something like that. And while we were watching it with my wife, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's it was so much better way back in the 50s when you just showed up to a girl's house every day, no matter how many times she said no, until she was like 25 and no one else had married her, so she was afraid of being an old maid, so she just settled for you." It was so much better.
It's like in the movie Back to the Future, the first one, where it's pretty obvious that Biff is going to rape Martin McFly's mom.
Yeah.
And but if he doesn't go back in time, that happened. So it's like, oh well, what would happen with you? Like, I got raped by Biff. Now he bullies my husband around.
There was so much rape going on in the 80s. Oh, it was terrible.
I'm against it.
Yep, I'll take that stand too. And I think the worst part is the hypocrisy.
I would say the worst part was the rape.
Oh, but before we get into Captain Marvel, speaking of, this is a horrible segue. But
Aren't they all?
we have another celebrity interview for you today. We're talking to Barry Papick, who you probably remember from the movie Private Parts with Howard Stern. So take it away, Mark.
Mark, explain to the folks at home who Barry Papick is again.
Barry Papick is an actor and an acting coach who's worked with a lot of talented individuals, including Jamie Foxx and others. It's in the
Nice.
It's in the interview. So take it away, Mark, from about 4 days ago. Well, welcome back, everybody. We are here with another special guest. We've been doing a lot of these special guests on Massive Late Fee. I know you guys have really been enjoying it. We have another treat for you today. We are here with actor and acting instructor Barry Papick. You probably recognize him most from Private Parts, the Howard Stern movie. He was the person who ended up going to records on Howard Stern's show. Very memorable role in that. He's also been on NYPD Blue, Without a Trace, the 24th Day. It is Barry Papick. How you doing, sir?
Hey, how are you? It's great to meet you, Mark.
Oh, very good. So now I know that you have an acting studio that teaches kids or aspiring actors from all over the globe, both in Los Angeles, and your acting school also does online classes as well, right?
That's right. We do a lot of Skype, a lot of coaching, a lot of one-on-one, and I coach with people all over the world, from Denmark, to Chicago, to Orlando, so it's been pretty good. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with different people all over the globe.
You've done a lot of coaching on different movies. I see from your resume, your IMDb, that you've been thanked and you've worked as a coach on a lot of different movies. Starting with the earliest one that I could find is the Finding Forrester, the 2000 film with Sean Connery. What was it like being an acting coach on that film?
Well, that was the first film that I was an acting coach on, and working with Gus Van Sant was fantastic. Gus is an incredible director, and Sean was a gentleman. I also worked with F. Murray Abraham and Anna Paquin. We had 3 Academy Award winners in that movie. It was really it was fantastic. And then I coached Rob Brown. Rob right now is on Blind Spot, and he was also the star of The Express and Coach Carter. And it was his first movie, so it was really exciting.
One of the first films that you've done, one of the early ones was a film that was in the finals for the grand jury prize at Sundance called Little Noises with Tatum O'Neal and Crispin Glover,
That's right.
John C. McGinley that a lot of people would recognize from Scrubs. Um, I'll I'll ask you as sensitively as possible. Crispin Glover has quite a reputation
Crispin's
around town. Do you have any interesting Crispin Glover stories?
Well, Crispin's an interesting guy. I mean, I think he's the first person I ever met who I thought was from a different planet.
Right.
And it was directed by Jane Spencer, who I subsequently did 2 more movies with and a play in New York. Really interesting writer director, and the whole cast. It was an interesting cast. Crispin played my cousin in that movie, and a girl named Carolyn Farina, who was the star of Metropolitan, played my sister, and it was a great cast. Rocket's Red Glare, who was a New York performance artist, played my father, and my mother was played by the incredible Carol Shelley, who was one of the original Pigeon Sisters.
Okay.
So it was a really interesting group of actors. It was a lot of fun to do. It was a really interesting script. And Jane is very creative. And we're supposed to do another movie together called South of Hope Street. And I'm really looking forward to that.
And then from there, you did Private Parts. Obviously, a lot of people will remember you from that film. You worked opposite Paul Giamatti in a scene. You've worked opposite some very strong actors in different films, including Al Pacino. What's it like to work opposite a strong actor like that? And also, how does that experience inform how you teach?
Well, that's an interesting question. Working with Al was fantastic. Because it was a lot of give and take. We did maybe the first scene we did together, we did maybe 60 takes, which was incredible. When I was doing Finding Forrester, we were doing 3 or 4 takes of everything. So working with Al was great, and every scene was different. Every take was different. So it was really just wonderful to work with him. And that whole movie was a really good experience. Andrew Nicole, who wrote it, also wrote Truman Show and wrote and directed Gattaca. It was very creative. Private Parts was fantastic. And the thing about Private Parts was that it was written so well, written by the same guy who wrote Stripes and Meatballs, and and directed really well, by Betty. She was just fantastic. So Private Parts was a lot of fun. Going to work every day was a lot of fun. Simone, working with Al Pacino, it was a real education, as was Finding Forrester, working with Sean Connery and F. Murray Abraham. So, I've been really lucky that I've worked with a lot of great actors. I was also the acting coach on a movie called The Express, where I worked with Dennis Quaid and Saul Rubinak. I think Saul's an incredible actor. So I've been very lucky.
And so do you think that your style and your technique as an actor, do you think that comes from who you've worked with? Did you have an acting instructor early in your career that formed the basis of kind of how you teach acting? Or do you think it comes more from experience?
No, absolutely. I was really lucky that when I was an up-and-coming actor, there were some really great acting coaches still alive. I studied with Lee Strasberg for a long time, and a lot of the work that I do was formed by Lee Strasberg. I also studied with Uta Hagen, who was a very famous teacher and really an incredible woman. And then I met a woman named Susan Batson, and Batson was and probably is the top coach in the world. She coaches Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise, and a lot of the work of those and Elaine Aiken really formed the work that I teach. So it's a real collaboration of some great minds.
You were in the 24th Day, which is based on a play with James Marsden, Scott Speedman, and Sofia Vergara. Uh,
That's right.
a very tense and interesting film. For those of you who haven't seen it, this is one you definitely need to check out if you haven't seen this movie, by the way. But the basic plot of it is that a man's wife becomes HIV positive. So she knows that he's probably been unfaithful. He lures the guy who he believes gave him HIV and ends up kidnapping him, basically holding him hostage, while he tests to see if he does have HIV because he blames him for his wife's death. So I mean, it's a fabulous film. You guys got to check it out, definitely.
It is a great film, written and directed by Tony Piccarello.
Yeah.
Who was really, really a creative guy. And it was nice because there was really only 5 actors. It was a small cast. Sophia, I think, was 21 at the time. I had done the original reading in New York City. It was the movie shot in Philadelphia. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And it was really a lot of fun to do, and a really good experience. I was young at the time. I played the next door neighbor, and it was really a good experience. And spending a lot of time with Scott and James was fantastic because they're really talented young guys.
And what's it like? What's the difference between working on a large movie with a big cast and working more in a like a small setting? Like the film is, it's like a play. It's based on a play. It's like a play. It's more small, intimate kind of cast. What are the differences, and what's kind of the different approaches to acting that you take going to those two different things?
Well, I don't think I take much of a different approach to acting. Usually in a bigger movie like Private Parts, I feel a little bit more like a prop, than an actor. Mm-hmm. But in a movie like 24th Day, a hotel room, which was in I think 8 or 9 film festivals, where I played a weatherman who was an outed drag queen. Those movies, I get to do my work a little bit more. Which is always exciting. But the biggest difference between the movies really is money. I make a lot more money with studio films, and food. Mm. The food is much better in studio films.
Now, you've also written and directed your own film. And
yes.
Does taking on those different kinds of jobs, does that give you a different perspective towards acting and a different perspective towards teaching acting?
I don't think it affects my teaching that much. I do think it affects my acting. I've been a writer my whole life. I've always written. I wrote a play which we're hoping to put up in the spring called Ruby's Arms, which is a real passion project for me. Mm. But as far as the film that I did, Breakable, I think, being able to work with such incredible actors, the 3 actors that I worked with, other than myself, were really terrific. A girl named Kelly Wolf, she was on Parenthood for a while. She's a fantastic actress. Mm-hmm. Really a good group of actors. Meth Bandera, who is from Sri Lanka and is a really terrific actor, and a young kid in his 20s. So it was nice. It was fun to hear my words spoken by somebody else. It was fun to shoot that and to really shoot that in a way that I wanted it to be seen. Unfortunately, I think we shot a little quickly, and in retrospect, we didn't shoot enough. But I think it was a really good experience, and I learned a lot from it.
Now, as far as your acting studio goes, it's BP Studios, right?
That's right.
And what kind of what kind of experience could somebody, let's say I'm not an actor, but let's say I wanted to take your classes here in Michigan. What sort of experience would I look forward to?
Well, absolutely. My work is called need-based acting. It's based in the need of the actor and the need of the character.
Okay.
Now, I have people in my class who are writers. I have people in my class who are directors, and I have people in my class who are businessmen. And the great thing about it is it gets you closer to yourself. So if you're a businessman, let's say you're a salesman, you really start to be able to use yourself in the work that you're doing. And I've also gone into different corporations, and I've done weekend workshops, 2 or 3 day workshops, where what they do is they take the corporate team and they make them understand who they are better so they can sell better, and they also make them more of a community so they can work together better.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. And how is it like kind of open ended? Is there a certain amount of like time for your course?
It's open ended. I have people in my class. I have one guy who was in Full Metal Jacket and works all the time. He's been studying with me for 10 years.
Okay.
I have people who just came in, and they stay for 6 months just to, sharpen up. I've coached people, like Jamie Foxx, Alec Baldwin. I coached Sonia Sohn, who was on The Wire, Ione Skye. Dennis Quaid. I've coached some of the top people in Hollywood. So basically what I try to do is take, the things that I've learned from coaching those people and the things that they do and transfer it into, making people working actors. My whole goal is to make people working actors. I have one girl in my class, Allison Sudell, who's really fantastic, and she just signed a 5-picture deal for Fantastic Beasts, and
Okay.
she did the first 2 Fantastic Beasts, and she came to me, as a musician, saying, "I'm not really sure I want to do this," and I said, "Just come in and have fun. It's going to help your singing. It's going to help your writing." And ultimately, what it did is made her an actress.
Yeah, I see from your website that you get quite effusive praise from Alec Baldwin. I think that people in the listening audience will be a little surprised, but this does happen. That people like Alec Baldwin or Sean Connery or people like that still have acting coaches and people that help them on the movie set. I think that's probably a surprise to a lot of our listeners, but it's quite a unique opportunity that you give, especially doing a lot of things from Skype for people who are looking to break into the acting business, to be coached by someone who's coached the likes of Alec Baldwin, who's worked with a lot of larger name stars, and that kind of access. The internet sort of brought that access to a lot of different people that want to get into that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And, I've been really fortunate that I've worked with really great people. And the reason that people still use acting coaches is because it's always great to have a third eye. And even when I act, and I still make my living as an actor, I use an acting coach. And if you'll remember when Nicole Kidman won her Oscar, she said, Susan Batson is a goddess, and Batson's my coach also, and she's been coaching Nicole for years. So it's just a matter of continually being aware of what you need to do and how you need to do it, and how you can connect, and challenging that. Even when I was working with Jamie Foxx on Ray, he won an Oscar for that. And it was about how can we connect to this character.
Okay, so you would say that your role as an acting coach is more of perspective, giving different perspectives to things.
I think my role as an acting coach is a secondary director.
Okay.
A director who works with dialogue more than pictures. And and that was the great thing about working with somebody like Gus Van Sant, is he's so incredible. Working with pictures. I mean, he can shoot better than anybody. So my role is to make sure that the actors are as true as they possibly can be. I always say I can make a good actor great, and a great actor, fantastic, and a great actor, Oscar worthy. And so basically, when I'm doing a movie, I'll go up to an actor and I'll say, okay, I like what you've done, but let's try to take it from this angle. Let's look at it this way and see how, if we can come in from a different place. And usually, I've never worked with an actor who didn't enjoy being worked with. I've been very lucky.
Now, I will say this, and I don't like to talk a lot about myself on these interviews, but I have a theory, and I'll tell you why I have that theory. I have done a little acting in the regional kind of theater stuff, just little stuff. I'm not trying to be an actor as a profession, but I have done a little bit of that, and I am a writer. I have some books that are published and out there, and I want to ask you, because you obviously, to a different degree, but similar. Do you feel that your experience as a writer helps you both as an actor and coaching actors? How to say things, to being able to better interpret the writer's original intent as far as inflection or emotion, things like that, in what they're doing?
It's really interesting. When I first started studying acting, I didn't. I would have said no. But then I met a man named Harold Clurman, and I don't know if you've ever read The Fervent Years, but everybody should. And Harold Clurman was a director in the 50s. He started the group theater. He was one of the first members of the Actors Studio. And the thing with Clurman was that he said you have to understand the piece. You have to do script interpretation before you can ever lay in the work. And that made sense to me. So I think my work as an actor more influences my work as a writer than my work as a writer influences my work as an actor.
Okay.
And I think that my work as an actor makes me understand that as a writer, I have to write things that people can really speak, that could be truthful. I have to write things that aren't esoteric and are connectable.
Okay, I gotcha. That makes sense. All right, well, Barry Papik, thank you so much for joining us today. You can see Barry in Pink Collar Crime on CBS. He's doing a new movie called The Big Rat. Is that what it's called?
That's right, with Thomas Churchill. And we did another movie last year, which should be out soon, called Nation's Fire.
Okay, so check out Barry for that. And of course, if you are a prospective actor, if you're a musician, if you're in any of the kind of performing arts, or if you want to get to know yourself a little bit better in business, check out Barry's acting school. Where can we find you online to connect with you?
You can always connect with me at bpapik@aol.com. That's old school. Or you can connect with me on Facebook under bpapik. Or the number for my studio is 818-590-3999. And you can call me and talk to me, and I'll answer all your questions. I think it's every actor should be studying. If I'm not teaching, I'm studying. Every actor, and I think that the great actors, even Al Pacino, Al is a perfect example. I just saw him last week actually, and Al studied with a guy named Charlie Lawton his whole life. And whenever Al wasn't working, he was studying with Charlie. And I think that's the great thing about acting, is that it never stops. It always grows.
That's great. Great stuff. So thank you for joining us, Mr. Papik. And I will link Barry Papik's studio and his website and everything below, so you guys check that out. And I'll put the phone number down there, too. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a good day.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun.
So that was a great interview. I'm sure that we will all check Barry Papik out. If you're interested in acting, you could find worse acting coaches like me. But today we're talking about Captain Marvel, the new Disney product foisted upon the public as faux feminist icon. I love, we usually don't talk about the controversies and stuff that surround all movies apparently now, but because every movie is a political movie at this point. But I do kind of love how everyone or how people are trying to champion this as some sort of celebration of feminist culture. This Marvel product that Disney wants to sell you to make a bunch of money. And that's
I would be
it.
shocked if Disney helped promote the whole, political aspect of it.
Yeah, well, and the other part that pisses me off is all the morons out there that's saying, "Oh, this movie's all feminism. I hate Brie Larson," and that pisses me off. So they both piss me off. Probably the people that say this movie's some sort of horrible attack against men probably piss me off a little bit more because they're more obnoxious. But they're both morons. And yeah,
I read a review that was like very annoying because this review talks about like Captain Marvel, how he's in the review goes, she's the most powerful, one of the most powerful characters in Marvel's universe. And he goes, and then white men ignored her, and then it goes like the next sentence essentially is like, well, she wasn't very powerful until a few years ago. It's like, so you're saying she was basically like a B-list character, and then everyone ignored her? Yes, that's what happens to B-list characters.
yeah.
Look at Laura Laughlin. You have to fucking get your kid to school to make the news.
No, I mean, all your daughter needs to be a strong female is all the powers in the world.
Yeah.
But no,
Remember Rosa Parks when she blew up that bus that refused to let her sit where she wanted to?
exactly. Yeah, why would we hold up people like Rosa Parks or Mae Jemison or Sandra Day O'Connor or Sally Ride as feminist icons? Let's choose Wonder. Let's choose Captain Marvel.
Yeah, I prefer my feminine superheroes who can survive a space shuttle attempt.
Yeah, Captain Marvel. It's the most politically divisive movie of the year. Thanks, world.
It's only March. There should be more.
Right. I guess that's where we're at. But anyway, so Captain Marvel. The other thing I'll touch on real quick is there's like some controversy over Brie Larson because last year she was at a Women in Film conference and she gave this speech where she, if you listen to some people, directly insulted all three of us because she talked about how she doesn't want to hear from 40-year-old white dudes anymore. As far as film,
I'm only 38, so I'm good.
as far,
39, I'm good. It's just you.
well, no, I'm 39 too, but we're all
right,
approaching
we're good.
40. But as far as film criticism goes, and
Yeah, you should really pay attention to her. She was in 3 movies.
I have to say 2 things. One, I don't think there's anything that's less consequential to the struggle of people who are oppressed around the world than film criticism. One. And two, I know what she was trying to say because I listened to the whole thing. What she was trying to say is that it's nice when there are more voices, more diverse voices in all aspects of things, including film criticism, to where, like, she was highlighting that horrible, horrible movie, A Wrinkle in Time. But she was basically saying that, it's not made for white guys, it's made for biracial children and stuff like that. So,
It's made for people who never read the book, which was pretty amazing at the time,
Yeah,
and even now holds up. If
ex-
you like the book and want it to be filmed in a very shitty way, go see A Wrinkle in Time.
Exactly. Thank you. Because, there are a lot of people that love the book that hate the movie, just like you, because the movie's not good. But anyway,
Hey,
so
Oprah's in it. Don't be racist, okay?
but she did say, I do agree with her that it's nice. I'll give for instance, I listened to a podcast called Movie Geek and Proud Podcast. We've done promos for them. They've done promos for us. And they're 2 gay men. They're white gay men, but they talk about movies. And so it's a show similar to ours, but they do it, and they don't, it's not exclusively through a gay perspective, but they're both gay men and they bring that perspective to their movie reviews. And there are things that they say about certain movies that never would have occurred to me. And that's good. It's good to have diverse voices giving different points of views, people with different, different experiences in life.
Perspectives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's always good to have a new perspective. I champion that. I love to hear different people's opinions because I like to see things in a way I've never seen them before.
Yeah, but she just put her foot in her mouth continually in that thing. And I also saw a one of those Wired autocomplete interviews that they do with her on YouTube, and she really kind of came across as like she didn't want to answer any questions, and she just, I don't know, she just seemed very unpleasant. But I don't hold that against her in this film, even though I think she's completely miscast in this film. But I did love Room, and I thought she should have won the Academy Award for Room, which she did, so I was happy about that, and she was my pick that year.
When she's in the movie 21 Jump Street and she's playing a 18-year-old who's dating a much older policeman, that's perfectly fine. It's not objectifying or anything like that.
Right.
She's making money. It's okay.
And that's the other thing that pisses me off is like her saying like that this movie's not for white guys and stuff like that, or not for 40-year-old white guys or whatever she said. There are like how many white guys that review movies gave Moonlight like glowing reviews, or Tangerine, or some of these other films. The thing is I get a little defensive, even though we're not really professional critics. I get a little defensive when critics get attacked. Because, yes, it would be nice to have a lot of diverse voices, but you can't just give a pen and a paper or a microphone to a 16-year-old black woman and say, here you go, review this movie. Because what they're going to give you is not going to be, it's not, you have to know some things to review a film. Film is an art form, and there are a lot of technical aspects, there are a lot of things about film that you can objectively observe and say they did this correctly, they did this incorrectly, and it takes study to do that. So, I do believe that more different types of people should go into film criticism, but most of them are not going to be 16 because it takes a while to kind of figure all that stuff out. When I was 16, I wouldn't have been able to review a film other than saying like, "Oh, it looks good."
It had boobs.
Right, exactly.
I feel like her comments and comments like that seem to be whether they realize it or not. She's not. It's not just the white 40-something Twitter. It's Twitter. Those are the ones who are tearing a movie down because there's.
Yeah, I agree. It's morons on the internet that don't know anything about movies.
The internet has made film criticism open to everyone, and it's a great thing, and sometimes it's a really bad thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
And that's the thing is, and like I say about like a 16-year-old girl. I mean, and some could savants could study it and know enough about film to be film critics. Most can't, I would say, on the whole. But it's the same thing with people of any age on the internet or on Twitter. That's like, and that's why I hate this group too, where they're like, oh, it's feminist garbage and all this stuff. And it's like, you don't know anything about movies. And so many of them will say, oh, I haven't seen the movie yet. And it's like, oh, okay. But I really, yeah, go ahead.
And generally the people who fear movie critics are people who are in and make bad movies.
Yeah. But
movie and someone criticizes it, sorry, you're a bad movie. You're a bad actor / actress / actor.
But I really hate how every movie is becoming some sort of political movement. And I don't think it's a fault of the studios in any way, because I don't think the studios are trying to do any of this. It's morons overreacting on the internet that are saying like, "Oh, Captain Marvel, we got to watch this feminist garbage now," and it's like, no, it's just another superhero origin movie. It has nothing to do with politics.
See, I still think that studios are kind of like trying to trump that up. I mean, obviously, there are some things that have like a more social commentary. Mm-hmm. And I'm not against that, but I mean, like with if you make a movie like with like that Captain Marvel, you're like, oh shit, this movie's not as good as we thought. Like, oh, it's a feminist, movie.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Studios are always going to be happy to lean into that when it benefits them. So if you're saying Captain Marvel is a hearing that, Marvel is, of course, going to lean into that and say, oh yeah, it is. It's feminist. Whereas I kind of think the thing I like about Captain Marvel is it's kind of feminist without shoving it down, and it's not preaching. There's one sitting there going, "Oh, she's a superhero. She's a girl. She's a superhero, and it works." And
Sure. Yeah, I'm not opposed to that at all, but I mean, just like the fact that in the trenches, so to speak, there's like this campaign, like, oh, if you don't watch it, you must hate women, or that sort of thing is kind of ridiculous because there's a lot of shit movies out there, and most of them are comic book movies. I'm sorry, I know you both are kind of into them. Every comic book movie I've seen is terrible. I have not yet seen a good one.
Well, let's talk about this comic book movie. So I think we've all seen it. Chris, what did you think of Captain Marvel?
Okay, well, I should probably set it up by saying I am a big comic book movie,
Yeah,
particularly Marvel.
yeah, we kind of have the three tiers. Mike hates all comic book movies pretty much. You're a big fan, and I'm sort of in the middle.
It's really only Marvel right now where I'm like, I pretty much enjoy everything they put out. I went into this really expecting I'd like, and I did enjoy it. I do feel it's kind of a step back. I feel like Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Black Panther, those kind of did some really interesting new things. They kind of broke from the formula a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And this was leaning a bit more back into the whole get the thingy plot that every other Marvel movie seemed to go into.
Yeah, the thing that I didn't like about this movie is that at the beginning of the film, or close to the beginning of the film, we see the bad guys. Well, I guess we'll get into spoilers in a minute. But the bad guys, the Skrulls, a shape-shifting race. I know a lot of people have read the comics, and there's a very famous run called Secret Invasion, where the Skrulls kind of take over the Avengers, and who's a Skrull, and we don't know who a Skrull is, which one's the Skrull and all that stuff. I think Captain America's a Skrull at one point. And so people were kind of expecting this movie to set that up, which it does not in any way. But so the quote unquote bad guys capture her, and we see her past. So we kind of learn where she came from before she does, which I know they're trying to do something a little different for the just standard origin story, but it really kind of destroys any dramatic tension of it. Like, if we could have followed her from the beginning of her story through her origin and all this stuff, and she joins the Kree, which is pretty established through the other movies. I know Mike is completely lost here, but it's pretty established through the other movies that they're bad guys, because they're bad guys in Guardians of the Galaxy. They're bad guys in the first Avengers movie. Ronan is anyway, and so we kind of know that they're bad guys anyway. But so we see her doing that, and we kind of know, oh, she's not quite on the right side of things, and it lets us watch her grow and change and have a character arc, but that doesn't really happen in this movie. We just kind of know before she knows, and it takes a lot of the dramatic tension out of the film. So that was my biggest problem with the movie in that aspect, is that it's an origin story that I think doesn't really connect us to the character enough.
I like the fact that they didn't do a straight origin story, like she's a regular and then she becomes super and has to deal with that, because we've seen that so many times. Mm-hmm. But I feel like they set up, oh, this is going to be a mystery, she's going to find her identity, but that really gets pushed to the side so she can have a buddy movie with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the personal stuff that actually I think works pretty well, reconnects with an old friend and things like that. They can't really balance that with, oh, now we're going to have, Wilson and Nick Fury, because we got to throw them in there, and we're going to link this to all the other Marvel movies. And by the way, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I think this took place in the 90s.
Yeah.
They were pretty subtle about that.
Oh, my God.
you can kind of feel him struggling that. Like, I overall like the movie, but I feel like whenever it stops to do the plot stuff, it really can.
Yeah, there were certain aspects that I thought worked. Like you said, some of the stuff with Rambo, her friend that she reconnects with, and the daughter that she reconnects with. I thought a lot of that humanized her and worked. But like you said, I love Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson is good in the movie. Completely de-aged.
His run is not the age.
Right. No, no, you can. That's the one thing they can't really cover up is any kind of the action scenes. You can tell he's 70. It's maybe the only way you can tell he's 70, even when he's
So
not de-aged.
it's not normal for Nick Fury to sit for a minute.
Let me catch my breath.
Hold on.
But yeah, like he's very good in the movie, and I like Samuel L. Jackson a lot. But I do wish it feels sometimes like a lot of these later origin story movies, with maybe the exception of Doctor Strange, are just commercials for the next Avengers movies. That's kind of what it seems like to me. Because, like you said, they try to put everything that they can into it. I guess we're in spoilers now. The Tesseract is in this, the Space Stone. Mike, did you have any idea what the hell they were talking about?
I had no idea what the fuck was going on in this movie.
Because I really think that they do not care anymore about people seeing the movies for the first time. But yeah, the Tesseract is in there. I guess at some point. So here's the timeline of the Tesseract for Mike and any of the folks out there. Odin found it at some point back when he was killing a bunch of people, and then he dropped it on Earth for whatever reason. Some monks or priests or whatever they were got it, and they stored it in this like church thing. And then in Captain America, they found it because Red Skull found it. It got lost in the ocean with Captain America. I think Howard Stark maybe recovered it. Then at some point, Annette Bening gets a hold of it, uses it for her light speed engine. It gets on there with the Skrulls. Nick Fury gets it and then is studying it where it shows up in Thor, I think, the end of Thor, and then in the Avengers. And then Thanos eventually gets it. And or no, I guess it goes into space at that point. Because Star-Lord gets it, right? That's the one. Or no, no, that's the powers. That's the power one,
yeah.
right? Yeah. I get confused with these. So
Loki gets it or something.
Yeah, Loki gets it, and then eventually it ends up back on Asgard, and then Thanos gets it. So quite a long trip for a MacGuffin through several different films.
Here's a complete derailment. I just remembered another thing I watched this week.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of Odin, I saw the premiere of American Gods season 2.
Oh yeah, the Neil Gaiman thing.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I heard that he took over a lot of like story stuff on season 2, where he was kind of like, "This is the way I want things."
Yeah, I think American Gods is a very stylish show. Like, if you watch, just watch the first episode of season 2, it's like, yikes! It's like just dripping with like stylized like shots and that sort of thing. But I kind of gave up on it after season 1 because they really departed from the book quite a bit. But I whatever, I'll just watch season 2 until I can.
Right. Mike, I have a question for you. To Chris's point, did you get any sense that this movie took place in the 1990s?
Is that when it took place?
The soundtrack, there were some songs in there, or some placements of songs in there where I was like, okay, I get it. I understand this works. But for the most part, I mean, it was at one point, it's just like scene after scene beating you over the head. Like, do you remember grunge? Do you remember grunge music? She's wearing a Nine Inch Nails t-shirt.
It's the Goldbergs of Marvel movies.
Oh my God, absolutely. That is a perfect thing. When they played "I'm Just a Girl" in the final battle scene,
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, oh, that's wow, no subtlety at all, huh? We're just going right on the nose. Oh,
That was way too on the nose, especially when something like Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, uses so well
mm-hmm.
that someone at Marvel, I mean, they had to see various iterations.
Yeah. Well, then the thing is in Guardians of the Galaxy, it's informed by something. You know, like it's Star Lord's music that's his only connection to his mom and only connection to Earth. So it's at least story wise informed by some sort of character motivation. But most of this music, was produced and released when she was on an alien planet. So she obviously doesn't have any connection to it.
An alien planet in the 90s, you mean?
Oh, but yeah, it was something else. They made a lot of weird decisions. What did you think of Brie Larson, Chris? What did you think of Brie Larson in this role? Do you think that this was the right casting or not?
Um, I really liked Brie Larson. I've been a fan of hers going way back. Um, I liked her in this a lot. I feel like she's very
She's
have a
very yeah.
dry sense of humor. I liked her. I thought she was really good. I think Marvel, the thing they use. Yeah, I want to see her up there with Robert Downey Jr.
That I think will be interesting once she comes into the next movie that's coming out in a couple months or next month, Endgame. I think it'll be interesting to see how she plays with the rest of them, with Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. and those guys. She's a good actress. She's an Oscar winner. I just, like I said, my biggest problem was I didn't feel a lot of connection to her character in this movie. I felt more of a connection to Nick Fury's character than I did
I
her.
think one with Brie Larson, I think she is confident when she's allowed to be the confident character who loves using her power.
Hmm.
Brie Larson's so good, but when she has to kind of be searching for her identity, there's no character there because they're withholding a character from us.
Yeah.
And I think she's kind of at the mercy of a weak script at that point.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of the problem. And when you try to develop character over a like 60-second montage of her getting knocked down, but speaking of 90s music, her getting knocked down but getting up again because you're never going to keep her down. Um, but when you try to develop character over a 60-second montage like that, it's like that is not enough. Oh.
I feel like in a second movie they had a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's the Marvel origin stories are always the ones that kind of to me just. And I would place this probably midway in the Marvel lineup. They just don't feel as free to kind of have fun and let the character grow. They're really
Yeah, I mean, Iron Man was probably the best as far as the origin stories go. I liked the beginning of Captain America until that also just became a montage of, oh, and Captain America did this and then he did this and then he did this. And then it lost me there, but the first part of the movie I liked a lot. But ever since then, I mean, even the original Thor, I wasn't a huge fan of. I wasn't really a huge fan of Thor until Ragnarok, to be honest with you. When I think that's when they used his character properly.
and even something like Doctor Strange, which I like a lot in that.
Hmm.
That movie is that structure to that movie is beat for beat Iron Man,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and Marvel seems to return to that. Like it, whenever they introduce a character, it's kind of like
And I like Benedict Cumberbatch, or I like Doctor Strange, the character, a lot better in Infinity War when he's kind of sparring with Tony
Yeah.
and like I didn't love Doctor Strange. I thought it was okay, but I didn't like that movie as much. But when I saw him in Infinity War, Doctor Strange became one of my favorite characters.
100% agree. Yeah. Yeah, same thing.
But yeah, what do you think this movie did right?
I think, I mean, as much as I've criticized it, I had a good time with it. I think it's fun. I think they know how to deliver again.
Yeah,
There's some stuff with the cat that I really loved. I think they set Captain Marvel up to be a major play in this universe. I want to see her in more movies. I like Brie Larson. And I think too, when they're not worrying about pushing along the plot, when it just stops and relaxes, it's really good. The directors, Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, they come from an independent
yeah,
movies like Half Nelson and stuff, and I think there are scenes where you have Brie Larson and oh gosh, what was Lashana Lynch,
yeah.
who played Maria Rambeau. They're catching up on their past, and those scenes are those are very intimate, moving scenes of two people talking, having a friendship, which is something these movies don't always breathe for. I think there's a lot of good chemistry between Brie Larson and Sam.
Yeah, that to me that's the best part of the movie is that stuff between them. And the one part about that part that I that I didn't really like was when Captain Marvel got her new uniform because that kid helped her pick it out. Um I love the fact that this little girl just knows exactly how to manipulate alien fashion technology on her arm. It's just so weird. Oh, she's just like, oh, I'll just push some buttons here. I know exactly what I'm doing. It reminded me of that movie, the Predator. Remember that remake when that kid just knew how to use all the Predator's technology?
I didn't see that, but isn't that the same kid from Room? It's
Yes.
her son,
Yeah, that's
Brie
right.
Larson's son in Room.
Yeah.
So they probably just
But yeah, that was the one part that bugged me about that. But yeah, everything with Maria Rambeau and her I thought was really good. I liked, like I said, I liked a lot of Samuel L. Jackson's character development in the film too. Coulson's in it for a very brief period of time, and we also find out how Nick Fury loses his eye, as he told Captain America the last time he trusted someone, he lost an eye, and I guess that someone was a cat.
yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I like the misdirect that everyone expects it's gonna be some badass way, but that has to be canon now, and it's like
The one thing that I'll do to excuse them for it is basically, when he says that to Captain America, I mean, he's a very secretive guy, and I think he just kind of makes stuff up as he goes along, especially when it comes to that eye. So I'll give him a pass on that, and it was fairly funny. And I liked the humor part with the cat. I thought was funny because all the scrolls. Oh, spoiler alert! These scrolls are basically Chechens or Sokovians or whatever you want to call them. They're refugees, and the Kree are just slaughtering them because the Kree are assholes, which we already kind of knew. But so they're not the bad guys at all in the film. But the scrolls are like that one scroll, Talos. It's like, get that thing away from me. And he's like, it's just a cat. It's like, no, it's not just a cat.
I thought the joke was funny, like on its own, just that they were scared of the cat. And then when the reveal of the cat happened, I was like, okay, that's actually a pretty good gag.
Yeah, yeah. The when he swallows the tesseract and then he kills and swallows those guys.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I was on board with that. Mike, what did you think of the cats?
Of Cats?
Yeah, of the Andrew Lloyd Webber play The Cats.
Didn't care for it.
What did you think of the origins that it's based on the life of practical cats by T.S. Eliot?
Yeah, that's probably better. And of course the what's it called? Christopher Snow series by Dean Koontz heavily references that as well.
That's true. You're right. Mike has absolutely no interest in this movie at all.
No, none whatsoever.
Chris, we might have to get you back for Avengers Endgame when we talk about that.
There's no
That'd be
might
great.
about it.
I can't imagine how lost Mike is gonna. Mike hasn't. This is the only Marvel film Mike's ever seen.
Gosh.
Yeah, the rest I turned off like at probably 10 minutes at the most.
So I can't imagine how lost Mike is going to be when I make him watch the second part of a film that is entirely dependent on you knowing all other 20 movies to even have a remote understanding of what's going on.
My
It's
only
literally part
question is
22.
is Dolph Lundgren still playing the Punisher?
Oh, I don't even remember who's the Punisher anymore. I can't remember that guy's name.
Dolph Lundgren, I think.
Oh,
Thomas
that-
Jane was in the movies, and the series on Netflix I didn't care for that much.
I can't remember his name.
it was the guy
Frank
from
Castle.
Walking Dead.
Yeah. Yeah, Shade
Jake
from
Gallows.
Walking Dead. Oh. Yeah, he's they're in there somewhere. I don't the Netflix universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe don't seem to have much crossover.
Well, Netflix universe is
And
done
I
now.
think the Netflix doesn't exist anymore.
Right. But yeah, I don't know if Clark Gregg will or Greg Clark, what's his name? Clark Gregg?
Clark Gregg.
I don't know if he'll be in any more movies now that he was
think-
dead, but now he's alive and everything.
The only redeeming quality of the entire movie, in my opinion, I think you already know the answer to this, Mark.
Okay.
It ties in with what we were talking about earlier, the Kevin Smith / Mallrats reference.
That's right. Yes. Oh, I was going to bring that up as probably the only part in the movie that you would like. This is probably the best Stanley cameo ever
Yeah.
because
Liked
it takes place in the 90s, 1995 to be exact, and Mallrats was made in 1996. So we see him reading the scripts to Mallrats.
Though oddly enough, aren't the lines in Mallrats mostly concerning DC type characters? I mean, he mentions the Vulture at one point, but he's talking about Superman blowing through urinals.
Yeah, no, it's mostly. I think it's mostly Marvel stuff where because he talks about the Vulture and he talks about I think the Thing at one point.
Yeah, that's true. It's been a while since I've seen that one.
But what I think is funny about this is that Stan Lee exists as the human being Stan Lee in this cinematic universe, referencing comics that he created in Mallrats, but he's also living in the universe where those comic book characters actually exist. And he's also somehow a watcher.
Yeah, and also there was a nice tribute to Stan Lee at the beginning as well.
Yeah, for sure. And
I hope they keep that in the rest of the Marvel movies from now on.
I think they probably will until
Because they're happy that they're paying one less person out after these movies. Because these movies are solely built to make money.
that is true.
They don't really add anything to the culture as a whole, in my opinion. I know, obviously, you two have differing opinions, but they're just simply a cash grab, and that's what it is.
No, I agree with you. I don't think they add anything to the culture either.
Yeah, no, they're fun.
I enjoy them. I think that
There's nothing wrong with a fun movie. I just don't find these movies to be fun.
Right. But yeah, I don't think that was kind of my point at the beginning, is that I don't think it's a feminist movie. Not because I don't think that, Captain Marvel can be a strong female character, just because I think these movies aren't meant for that. We're not talking about some kind of it's not Norma Ray. It's Captain Marvel. So
It's not Maude.
Yeah, exactly.
Captain Marvel was a strong female character.
They should make a mod movie.
With Brie Larson. Joey Fatone as Maud.
Right?
I'm sorry, B. Arthur, wherever you are.
Yeah. R.I.P. B. Arthur and all the Golden Girls, with the exception of Betty White.
Yep, still kick him.
I think they're all dead, right? Except for Betty White?
Yeah. And even Stanley Spornak is dead, which is very sad.
Oh, yeah. Poor Stanley. You know, that...
Stan Lee, there you go. It all ties together.
Yeah, and that show took place in the 80s and then early 90s.
What era does Captain Marvel take place in?
1995.
Do they say, or do they reference it at all?
I don't.
Well, you have to look for it.
Yeah, I don't remember if they say exactly 95. I mean, when she drops into the blockbuster at the near the beginning of the film, when she gets left on Earth,
One left.
right? She sees a poster or like a cutout for True Lies, and I think the movie she picks up is The Right Stuff. So it True Lies.
That's weird.
True Lies came out in '94, so it would have come out on video in early 1995. So
The Right Stuff is like late 80s, but that kind of ties in since The Right Stuff is about the first people to go into space.
Yeah, and she's somewhat of a space explorer because she was a test pilot and she was in space. Also,
I'd like to
Make a
recommend The
reference.
Right Stuff over this movie, by the way.
it's a good movie.
Whichever
Really good
movie. But, they make a reference. There was a crash in 1989. She's been gone for 6 years.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, most of this music was made after she was already gone, including "I'm Just a Girl."
it's like the Goldbergs. It's 1990 something.
Exactly.
Oh. Yeah, I'm Just a Girl. What is that? Like 95 or 96, I think.
I think it's 95. But yeah, completely out of those. It's funny that at one point they play "Come As You Are" on vinyl, but that was released in 1994, I think, but it didn't come out in vinyl till 1996.
92, I think, Come As You Are. Because
Yeah.
I believe Nevermind was 92, late 92, maybe like December or so.
Yeah, you're right. But it didn't come out in vinyl till 96. Not the single, because they play the single. So there's some continuity, I guess. I don't know. I'm not big on looking for that unless it's blatantly obvious. Oh, I don't know. Anything else to say about Captain Marvel, Chris?
Oh, I think we covered pretty much everything.
I mean, it's fine. It's I would put it. What has there been? 21 films so far? 22? I'd probably put it in the.
Top 20?
Well, I'd put it around half, maybe just below half, for me. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of half upper half, but
Yeah, it was fine, but there's the only movie I can think of that Marvel made that's really unwatchable is the Incredible Hulk movie.
that is a slog.
And besides that, they make even like Ant-Man and stuff like that. Like Ant-Man's, I would put this around the Ant-Man level to me, where it's like, it's fine. It's run-of-the-mill movie. But like you said, it does feel a bit of a step back after Ragnarok and Black Panther and Infinity War. But, if you like the Marvel movies, you'll like it. If you hate them like Mike, you won't.
And they do.
You won't go see it probably unless
Doesn't
an
matter,
asshole,
Disney-
unless an asshole friend of yours forces you to.
Yep.
Wallet, they will get your money somehow.
Or they won't. Not say anything. But I would like to say that I did watch it for the purpose of review and commentary.
Yep,
For the legal out.
Me too. Oh, but that is our show for the week. As always,
I won't get that time back, though. There's no way I'm getting that time back.
Yeah, no. Just like anyone that listens to this program won't get the time back.
Nope.
We've stolen your time. That's what we do here. We're succubuses of time.
Probably the greatest crime of all, if you think about it.
Yeah. We're wasting your life. We started the end of the show already. I started talking about it, but now we're just going to keep talking about how we're stealing your time.
You could be doing something much better.
You see that those clothes in that basket over there in the corner, you could be folding those, right? In fact, you don't even have to really be. You can passively listen to this pod. Why aren't you folding your clothes? Why are you playing that game on your phone? Get your head in the game, Gary. Your wife will like it if, when she comes home, the clothes are folded. That's all I'm saying.
Probably.
Keep listening to us. But anyway, so you can tell a friend about Massive Late Fee. Tell a friend about We're Watching Here with Chris. So at Chris and Perry. So that
Yeah, I'd go watch. I'd definitely listen to Chris's show rather than watch Captain Marvel.
You can find those on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, any of those places. You can also find them at MichiganSportsEntertainment.com, where you can find the rest of our podcasts.
Do you guys have a MySpace space yet, Chris?
Yeah, you guys got a MySpace.
We're just finalizing our top 8 on that. So
Let me know when. We'll put you in ours.
Yep, Mike went out and got a MySpace for us. But you can find us on MySpace, on Facebook, on Twitter, all the places. Massive Late Fee.
Grindr.
Yep, we're on Grindr. We are power bottoms on Grindr. So
Speak for yourself, Mark.
I think
We're everywhere.
I think I'd be a bear. I guess I don't know. That's a term, right?
Not sure. I don't think we should go into this though.
I'm not that hairy though. I don't have a lot of body hair.
Sorry.
That's okay. I've gotten used to it. Anyway, so you can find us on all the social media stuff. Chris, where can people find you?
you can find me. I'll plug our Twitter feed. It's Watching Cast on Twitter, and yeah.
All right, go to Watching Cast and follow them on Watching Cast. Do it. Do it right after you fold your laundry, Greg.
Coach, you got The Right Stuff. Very good movie.
It is. The Right Stuff is a really good movie. And watch Dexter's Laboratory. No, Frankenstein's
Lab. Yep.
Frankenstein's Lab. Watch that.
I know Chuck Yeager isn't hunting scrolls down, but it's still pretty good.
Oh, God. Gus
He only
Grissom
broke the
dies.
sound barrier.
Yeah. Okay, so you can check us out there. We'll see you next week when we'll talk about something that Mike cares more about.
Maybe.
Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye.
See you later.